Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 9 of What If Naruto Was Personally Trained by Kurama After Leaving the Village. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also, go ahead and check out the new episode over on Anime King 2 of What If Naruto Had the Rarest Bloodline. So go ahead and check out that and enjoy, guys. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all for your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last spot we left off, Naruto simply stood still, as Shino was completely shocked. His bugs were absorbing Naruto's chakra, but yet still Naruto didn't even show an inch of fatigue, as he just stood there allowing Shino bugs to continue absorbing his chakra, until the bugs came back full and sluggish because of how much chakra they had absorbed, as Shino was unable to defend himself, seeing that he wasn't that good in taijutsu, and Naruto had defeated Neji, so he stood no chance here, as he had to forfeit as Naruto won the match. Gaara then went down there as he faced off against Lee. Gaara didn't expect this at all, as Lee was on a completely different level from all the Genins he fought so far. As he was fast, he took off his weights and entered the gates. Gaara would have lost if he hadn't prepared himself in time, as he ended up erupting his sand all over the arena. His sand turned into fine webbing that wrapped around Lee. They were sharp. If Lee moved a single muscle, his flesh would be sliced badly, so he could not fight. As Gaara won his battle, after that the rest of the matches went on, and Naruto went down there as he was supposed to face off against Gaara. But feathers started to fall. The invasion began. As the sand was told to help Konoha, so Naruto intervened along with Teiwaya and Gaara, who protected some kid with his sand. The kids clutched onto him as they made their way around, destroying some shinobi, knocking them out of the village. While that was going on, Hiruzen was fighting for his life, as he ended up losing his life to Orochimaru. Time passed as Naruto found out about it as he went to the funeral, as a single tear shed from his eye. The only person that really knew him back in the village was his old man right here. Days passed as Naruto was in a gloomy mood, as he wasn't able to do anything. His friends were there though, and given the proper space that he needed, as they were told to stay to Konoha to help, to further boost the alliance between Konoha and the Sand. So with that on the way, Anko was assigned a new team, as she couldn't believe it, as she was gonna babysit a bunch of brats, but they needed them. They had a lot of missions as Anko. Well, she had to accept, it wasn't really a choice. So with that, she made her new team, as it was the three of them, as Hana had came in as well, as she would be helping as well. Uncle told Naruto to drop the transformation, as he did, as the both of them were understanding when they saw it, but they were surprised when they saw the tails. He had 3 tails behind him. That showed how much of the Kyuubi power he could use safely at the moment, as the 3 fluffy tails, and they were quite soft, as Uncle wanted them to move into her residence. After all, she lived a distance away from the Inuzaka compound, and she was gonna bring them out in the morning for early training, so they had to move over there. Uncle place was quite spacious, so they had a lot of space to do what they wanted, as they ended up moving in. As Uncle was quite surprised when Teiwaya moved her things in Naruto's room. Naruto thought that it was going to be just like back in the Sand, where they sleep in different rooms, but she came in his room at night. But now she just completely ignored that part, as she simply moved into his room. As Uncle was surprised that she said that they weren't dating. Yes, that was quite surprising, given how close the two of them were. With that out of the way, Anko decided to train with them. She also teach him a form of genjutsu. A genjutsu that had to do with the eyes. Something that her sensei, they heard the way she said it, had taught her. as it was to petrify someone. Anko didn't thought that Naruto would get it, but the look that he released, the potent hate behind it when he focused, she was caught completely off guard. She told him never to use it on a comrade ever. Well, it's not like he was going to. So yeah guys, so basically that's what I thought. You guys can switch across the blades and check it out for yourself. So what do you say begin this new episode? Naruto was currently lazily swinging his legs. As he was sitting on the bed, he has been waiting for a while now for Gaara so they could go to the onsen. Both of them were worn out from the training that they got from Anko, and they were told that they could go there, well, to relax and ease their muscles. So they were going to go to the hot spring. Naruto could not disagree. As long as they didn't run into any pervert this time, well, it would be alright. Finally, Gaara came out of the room. Going to baths was always worrisome for him because he couldn't take his sand with him and he felt vulnerable. His sand and water didn't mix well. It always left him heavy and inefficient. There was earth that he could break down into sand at the bath, but it wouldn't be as effective as his chakra lake sand. He did have his father gold dust now though, which offered him some protection, but not the same layer of armor that his normal sand would. You know, you could just take the gort and not take it in the actual bath with you, said Naruto. Gaara paused as he turned towards Naruto with that evil look in his eyes to say, "And you're just telling me this now?" Gaara sighed deeply as he returned to his room to get his gort as Naruto heard a knocking at the door. He wondered who it could be because Tailwire and Anko was out getting Dango together while Hana was on a tracking mission. He couldn't think of anyone else that might be visiting or knew where he lived right now, so it must be someone coming by to visit Anko. And that confused him. The short time that he has lived here, her really only friend was Hana, and she told him that they won't be taking missions just yet. As he went and opened the door, only to see the three Tomo eyes of a Sharingan, a fully mature Sharingan looking back at him. Naruto Uzumaki. The voice was cold, emotionless, and dangerous. Even more so than Gaara's voice. And Naruto instantly knew who it was, even if he did not recognize from the man picture in the bingo book. There was only two other people with a Sharingan, and this was definitely not Kakashi. Itachi Uchiha. Gaara heard Naruto and came rushing back in the room, gort on, and his sand armor already rushing over his body. The HY container. Sasori will be disappointed, but I suppose when the opportunity presents itself, you have to take it. How did you find us? Naruto asked. Itachi raised the eyebrow as he motioned with his head as he walked out in the corridor, as Naruto and Gaara felt compelled to follow him. Naruto was already formulating a plan in his mind. Both him and Gaara were Jinchurikis. Despite Itachi being one of Konoha's most dangerous mixed nin and an S-rank ninja, they could take him. But that plan quickly fell apart when they saw someone else in the hallway. 2 for 1, Itachi? Aren't we lucky? As Naruto stared the man down, rubbery blue skin, the gill markings on his cheek, not to mention a scratch, missed headband, it was a dead giveaway. Kisame grabbed them both. We have to move quickly before we're detected. Kisame smiled as he drew Samihata from his back. He was much faster than it seems, as his bulky appearance didn't show that amount of speed, so it quite surprised him as he was in front of Gaara within seconds, bringing a giant sword down. But Gaara's son lashed out towards him. Unfortunate for Gaara though, he wasn't aware of the ability that Samihata possessed. Well, it was like most people ever lived to tell the tale after they were struck by Samihata, so most wouldn't know. The blade absorbed the chakra from the sand as the sand fell to the ground uselessly. But lucky enough for Gaara, it slowed down Kisame's strike long enough for Gaara to move out of the way. Kisame looked disappointed he failed to draw even a single scratch. Samihata will enjoy feasting on Jinchuriki chakra today, he said as he advanced, looking like he was ready to tear every limb off of their body. Kisame, if you don't hurry up, I will be forced to end this quickly. You're no fun, Itachi, said Kisame. As Naruto sprang into action, see Kisame go after Gaara as he threw out kunais and shurikens from his wrist seal. Kisame spun and brought his sword down as he blocked all of them. They bounced off his weapon like they were made of paper. Alright, Kyuubi container. I decided to take on the first one first, but if you want it this way, Samihata doesn't have a problem on feasting on you first. Itachi turned his head. You're wasting time, Kisame. Now, I have to deal with it, he said, as he flashed right in front of Naruto with tremendous speed. He wastes no time as his eyes change. He looked Naruto dead in the eyes. The hallway changed. The color, everything. Naruto felt cold. The place felt inhabited. Like he was the only person in the world. He was in a different place. Welcome to my Tsukiyomi. Here, I control everything. For the next 72 hours, you are nothing but my plaything, Itachi said. The tome of his eye had warped into a new pattern, like a 3-prompt pinwheel. As Naruto tried to break the genjutsu, flaring his chakra stabbed himself in the leg, but nothing worked. Please, Naruto, it is pointless to try and escape this place. Hours in here are seconds in the real world. Even if your comrade find a way to wake you, it would be too late. To you, it would be hours to what I plan to do to you here. Naruto felt something in his stomach as he looked down, as chakra seeped out of his body, forming the Kyuubi. As Naruto saw the look on her face, she was angry. She was pissed. You, she said in a deadly growl. As Naruto watched as she started to change in front of him, her fur started to fall off, as her bulky figure slipped down, as her paws shrink into hands. Clothing appeared on her body, and soon she was dressed in a black gown with orange stripes on it. A coat like uncle's appeared on her shoulder, as it was black, with a pattern of 9 tomos arranged in a square. Long, beautiful red hair came down towards her back. She then turned and gave Naruto a smile. She had the same whisker marks that he did, and the elongated canines and her 9 tails behind her. She then turned back to Itachi, pure rage in her eyes. I must admit, this has never happened before, Itachi said, as he looked at her. You dare look at me, Uchiha. The world around them twists and turns as a battle takes place between the Beiju and the Genjutsu Master. I will rip those wretched eyes out of your cursed skull. She stepped forward. As Itachi stepped back, he was surprised. He never knew the results of placing the Jinchuriki under the Tsukiyomi, but he never expected this at all. Her whisker marks got black and thickened as her hands sprouted claws. He didn't want to find out what would happen when she actually reached him, so he decided to cancel the Genjutsu, but nothing happened. She closed the distance between them in a second as he was grabbed by the throat and lifted in the air with one hand. You no longer control this world. The environment started to change, accepting the dominant will of the Kyuubi. I wonder how long your Tsukiyomi lasts. The longest has been over 100 hours, she said, as a sick smile came on her face. I hope it's long because I have a lot planned, Uchiha. Time skip. Kisame wasn't sure what happened. One moment, Itachi moved in to counter the Kyuubi Jinchuriki under its most powerful genjutsu. The next moment, he crumbled down to the floor, barely propping himself up with his arms as he was sweating. Itachi, what's going on? He moved over to his partner, keeping one eye on the children in case they decide to take off. He didn't get to go any closer as something slammed into his stomach. He was sent sailing down the hallway and smashed into the wall. He looked down towards his stomach as he had a long, swirling scar, and his shirt was torn open badly, but it wasn't a fatal blow. He looked up to see Jiraiya approaching. Before Jiraiya could pass Itachi, Kisame stood and rushed forward. Jiraiya prepared himself, but Kisame grabbed Itachi. He used Samehata to break through the wall and leap away, running, quickly disappearing in the night sky so the Anvus couldn't trail him. Jiraiya turned back to the two kids as he moved towards Naruto. Are you alright, Naruto? What most people didn't know was you couldn't close your eyes inside the Tsukiyomi. You had to watch everything. Naruto snapped out of it though in a few seconds as he looked around. He moved over towards Gaara. The boy was also unharmed. Although the same could not be said for his pride, he was completely defenseless against a chakra-consuming blade, and he would have to find a better way to counter that when he faced Kisame in the future. Opponents like that were never a one-time deal. He would be seeing the Shark-Skinned Man again. He knew it. Jiraiya led them back into Uncle's apartment. He would wait for their sensei to arrive, along with their third teammate. There was a lot of explaining to do. He looked towards Naruto. He would have to tell him what was going on, and the threat that the Akatsuki posed on his life. Time skip. The dirt path seemed to stretch on forever, as it went straight down. The 5 of them walked along. Jiraiya was at the lead, walking like he actually knew where they were going. But that wasn't true, he had no idea where they were going. The three Chunins walked side by side behind him as they looked onto the endless path. Anko brought up the rear, irritated as the three of them, but she was more vocal. Come on, Jiraiya, when the hell are we gonna get there? Jiraiya's eye twitched once again. The tick that has been growing his head since their departure was gaining a new friend as a small tick was growing to the side. Quiet down, Anko, you're worse than a kid here. Everyone would have taken offense to that, but they were too tired to really care. Anko was about to retort, but they were safe as he turned the corner and the trees finally broke. As they came up on a hill and looked down at the mini metropolis below them. And this is Tanzuka Town, said Jiraiya. Anko looked down as she saw many people going all around. There was always something to celebrate in this spot. This was where most of the tourists went. Now you're sure that Tsunade will be here? Naruto simply scoffed as he looked insulted. Of course, they're celebrating the Kishiyodo festival here. That's the biggest gambling event of the part of this country. I bet she couldn't even avoid this place even if she wanted to. Jiraiya sighed. He knew Naruto at a point, but he hated being reminded of it. He was the one that was supposed to have the little spy network, not the little blonde kid here. Fine, let's just go get some rooms booked, and we can start searching tomorrow. The group was really tired from what happened. Flashback. Hey, wait up, Jiraiya. As Jiraiya paused, waiting for him to catch up. What is it, Naruto, he said. So if all that stuff about the Akatsuki is true, Jiraiya looked offended, like his intelligence could be wrong. Then what are we gonna do about it? Naruto asked. Jiraiya looked at Naruto as he wondered how much he could tell him. It was true, he hadn't been there for his godchild through most of his life, but the boy was rather level-headed and intelligent. We're not gonna do anything, Jiraiya said, stressing the word where. I'm gonna find Tsunade and make her take the position of Hokage. Naruto nodded as he saw the logic in finding a strong leader for the village in times of crisis like this. If what Jiraiya said about the Akatsuki was true, then this was definitely a time of crisis. What worried Naruto the most was that if they were collecting the Biju, then it wasn't just him in danger, Gar was in danger as well. Alright then, I can help you with that. Jiraiya looked towards him with an eyebrow raise, with an amused look. And how exactly do you think you can help me, he said. Because I know where Tsunade will be, said Naruto. End of flashback. Naruto relaxed in the chair as he looked in front of him at the platter that the hotel staff had laid out in front of them. As he dug into the sashimi, his friends doing the same, and his sensei. Jiraiya wasn't here, he was off talking to someone a contact in his spy network. No doubt he was probably scouring the small city in an attempt to find his old teammate. In fact, he was only doing that because Anko had stopped him from running off to the brothels. Jiraiya finally made his way back to the room as he sat down, a rather frustrated look, as Naruto could see that the search wasn't going so well so far. He seemed to shake it off as he turned towards Naruto with a glint in his eye. Well, Naruto, I came to a decision. Since you're out here with me, I might as well train you a bit. He didn't get the reaction that he thought he would get. Anko shot him a dead glare. It was like it was an insult, like she couldn't train him good enough. TOI did the same thing, wondering why the hell did Naruto get special treatment. Jiraiya gulped loudly as the two females glared at him. Now, Anko, I'm not implying that you're not a good teacher. It is simply a technique that you don't know. She still seemed annoyed, but she was now curious what he wanted to teach Naruto. And TOI, don't worry about it. You can at least attempt it. She still seemed a bit irritated, but she shrugged it off. As Jiraiya wondered why he got no reaction from two boys at all. So what would you teach me, said Naruto. Jiraiya looked at him as he felt like he wanted to cry. He was a Sanin, but yet the boy was slightly curious. He should be overjoyed. Gar, on the other hand, was completely ignoring him as he was just focused on his food. How about the technique I use on Kisame when I reach you too? Naruto smirked as he got up. He held out his hand. Jiraiya looked at him rather curiously as he saw Naruto did something that shocked him as blue energy started forming his hand before it twisted into a ball. The Rasengan was in his palm. Jiraiya blinked in confusion and surprise. Flashback. The three of them cut through the trees. This was their first unsupervised B-rank mission. Baki Sensei wasn't here. They had to at least cut out some of the usual antics that he wouldn't put up with. But Naruto wasn't really paying attention, mostly focused on the kunai in his hand. TOI looked at him in annoyance. He hasn't dropped that kunai since he left the village. Normally, that wouldn't annoy her. It paid to be safe, but he wasn't even using it for the proper purpose. When he told her he was going to invent his own chakra control exercise, She laughed in his face. Yes, it sounded that ridiculous. Even so, here he was running along with the kunai perfectly balancing on his hand. From what she understood, the objective was to focus the chakra points in your hand. Using chakra out of the points in your hand, you would hold up the kunai. It sounded simple enough, but the uses and the amount of chakra it needed, only people like Naruto could do it, actual powerhouses. She stopped focus on him and thought about the mission, a simple retrieval mission. Normally, something like that wouldn't be B rank, but the person who they were retrieving from was rather, well, she was known to be rather violent, and the object to retrieve was money from Tsunade to Chunin. She had run out on a gambling debt, a very large one if the client anger was anything to go by, and they hired Ninja to retrieve it. Honestly, TY thought that it was a major waste of her time and skills, but at least she would meet Tsunade. The woman was like an icon to many Kunoichi across Elemental Nation, as she was one of the most powerful Kunoichi in the world. TY wasn't really a fangirl, but she didn't turn down opportunities when they present themselves in front of her. Why would she? Meeting Tsunade definitely counts as an opportunity in her book, a great one at that. Naruto, would you quit playing with the stupid kunai? As she had enough, he simply waved her off. Wait, I think I almost have it, he said. She was about to beat him for waving her off, but he added too much chakra and the kunai flew out of his hand and stabbed into a tree. But that wasn't what was interested her. What interested her was this slight swirl of chakra that remained in his palm for a few seconds. He flapped his arm as the chakra dissipated. Wait, shithead. Do that again, she said. He looked at her strangely, but he did it. As another kunai was embedded into a tree, all three of them watched as the swirling chakra remained in his hand before the energy was released. That was awesome. How did you do that, Tio? I asked. Naruto shrugged as he looked towards his hand in amazement. The rest of the trip to find Tsunade went on rather smoothly, as Naruto tried it without the kunai, and he could make chakra appear same way. Now he would just hold out his hand, and after a moment of concentration, swirling chakra appeared. They were all surprised by the new technique that Naruto just created. They had no idea what it could be used for, but that is what experiments were for. They reached a town as they started to scout out the gambling halls. That was where they were told they would find the rather youthful looking Chunin. This was also the reason why TOI wanted to find Tsunade. Her healing skills were rather legendary, as she was able to make herself look rather youthful in her late 50s. What woman didn't want that? They eventually struck luck as someone had saw her at a pub. They went there. When they entered, everyone was focused on them. Seeing, well, they were rather young, but when they saw the headband, they turned away. There was an unspoken rule regarding shinobi: old enough to drink, old enough to kill. Many barmen went along with this because it added to their clientele and more money for them. It didn't take long to find Tsunade. She always changed her appearance when she ran out on debt collectors, but there were clues. Two very large clues. As Naruto's eyes widened, his mouth hung low when he looked at the woman. As she was 5 times his age, he had to remember that. Well, TY slapped him across the head. That helped a bit. As they discussed how to handle the situation, it was rather difficult, given that the woman was, well, legendary strong. Not to mention she was accompanied by a girl. With black hair, she seemed to be 18. If she ran interference, she could allow Tsunade time to get away. In the end, they decided to wait. After all, she was drinking herself in a stupor. They would let Guard do the talking. He was the most sensible out of the three. Finally, they agreed that Tsunade was drunk enough as they walked over. The black-haired girl became defensive, seeing their headband, but Naruto raised his hand, showing that they meant no harm. The girl was still tense, but she allowed them to sit down as Guard sat in the middle, while the other two sit on the right and left. Please don't feel alarmed by our presence. We are merely here to collect the money that you owe. After that, we will go and leave you in peace. There is no need for conflict. The very drunk and sleeping Tsunade snorted. She wasn't actually sleeping. These little brats think they have a chance against me, she said, as she dragged it out rather long. Her lips were not functioning right because of her drunken state. What makes you think I just can't walk out of here? And there isn't a damn thing you can do to stop me, she said. Naruto tuned out the conversation at this point. He would just let Guard deal with it. That was the plan. He continued to play with the chakra in his hand as it spun for a few seconds. He really wondered what he could do with that. That caught Tsunade's attention. Hey, the brat here thinks that he can do the Rasengan. Even in her drunken state, she knew that was her teammate's technique that he learned from the 4th Hokage. Naruto looked at her, confused. Like a little brat like you can ever learn the fourth Hokage's technique. Huh? What are you talking about? Said Naruto. As Naruto was studying her movements, she was moving a bit more sluggish than usual. Since they first sat down, it was almost like she was faking it. After all, most ninjas fake drunkenness to get their shinobis to drop their guard. Announced Naruto and the others. Her medical healing was already burning off the excess alcohol. But it took a while, seeing how much she consumed. The Rasengan was a technique created by the fourth Hokage. To this day, only he and Jiraiya, Lady Tsunade old teammate, has ever mastered it. Naruto turned towards the woman that answered him as she held out her hand. I'm Shizune, Lady Tsunade's personal assistant. He took the hand. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, he said. Tsunade looked quite surprised hearing his name, but they weren't focused on her, so she quickly covered up. I'm sorry, Naruto, but while Lady Tsunade is like this, I'm obligated to tell you that we don't have the funds to pay back the money that we lost. She looked worriedly at Tsunade, who looked like she wanted to take a nap. She was using her chest as a pillow. May I ask what you were instructed to do? Should we not comply? Naruto nodded and turned to Gaara, who took over. We have explicit orders. Should you not be able to repay the debt, we should escort you back to our client. I'm sorry, but Lady Tsunade snapped her head up as she looked towards Naruto intensely. Shizune, shh. I have a proposition for the brat here, she said. Shizune got worried. Lady Tsunade, I don't think that's... Tsunade looked at her. I looked to say be quiet, which she instantly did. You, the blonde one, Naruto. Naruto scolded at her. How long do you have before you have to bring me back? Gaara was the one that answered. We were given a month. We left the stand 2 days ago. Tsunade's mind went over the maths. Alright, I'll give the little brat here 3 weeks to learn the Rasengan. 3 weeks, she said, still slurring her words. If you can do that, then I'll pay back the money. Sound fair? In fact, I'll even throw in my necklace. Gaara narrowed his eyes. There was obviously some catch in this, but there was no way they could take on one of the Sanin. How do we know that you won't run away while Naruto is training? Tsunade looked like she was about to pass out. One of you brats here can watch me if you like. She looked down as she grabbed her breast with both of her hands. But no funny business, she said. And with another satisfied smile, she lay down on her boobs. Everyone looked at her with sweat dropped. Shizune gave them a smile. She started to hoist Tsunade up. Well, you might as well come and stay in our hotel room. Wait, said Naruto. I still don't know what the hell the Rasengan is. Time skip. As Naruto looked at his hand, the Kyuubi was healing his burns. Shizune had explained more about the Rasengan, and Tsunade had went into further details while she sobered up. But knowing something and doing it was two different things. All they knew was it was something to condense the chakra, spin it, and hold it at the same time. It was like it was moving in 2 different angles at the same time, which was rather difficult. Time skip. He was lying down in the forest area. The trees around him were wrecked. Many of them dug through with a swirling pattern. He grunted once again. Another failed attempt as he got up, pouring so much chakra. As much as he thought that it would be safe. It has been 5 days and yet, he still didn't grasp it fully. It kept on dissipating or just wobble out. As he couldn't disappoint the client or his friends. And mostly, he couldn't let down Tsunade. He didn't know what it was, but he saw it in her eyes. It was like something was eating her away. Yes, it's like she lost something rather precious to her. She hid the pain that she was feeling with gambling and drinking, but there was no hiding it. She had given up hope. She didn't expect him to achieve this at all, so he was gonna prove her wrong. That she should not just give up on the world like that. He was gonna prove her wrong. As he poured in chakra, he grabbed onto his wrist with his other hand. As he closed his eyes, focusing, he then heard it as he opened up his eyes. Inside his palm was a spinning vortex. With a roar, he slammed it toward a tree, but his concentration slipped at the last moment. His body finally giving out the exhaustion as he fell down, the Rasengan smashing into the ground. The entire town could hear the explosion when it went off. The explosion had taken him out for a few days. There was only 3 days left to the deadline, but that was the best thing to happen to him so far. Firstly, it could actually be done. So yes, it could actually work. And that was what he was out here for. To come up with a better result than pushing so much chakra, wasting so much. As he held out his hand as he formed another Rasengan, as he gripped his wrist with his other hand, as he placed a thick layer of chakra around the ball to condense it, he laughed triumphantly as he felt his control over the spear increase. As he laughed, it made him look quite psychotic, holding a ball of energy and just laughing. Time skip. Tsunade stared in wonder, as she couldn't believe it. As Naruto looked extremely pleased, not smug, just completely pleased. Shizune was shocked. Neither of them expected him to accomplish it, but she was not worried about the consequences. They would have to pull out another loan to pay for the debt. Tsunade might always return on debt, but she always kept to her side of the deal. On that same thought, she smiled softly as she reached around her neck as Naruto dissipated the ball, as she unclipped her necklace. As Naruto was just remembering that part of the deal, as she handed the necklace over. For some reason it felt so calm. He didn't know why. It also looked pretty cool as he placed it on, as the crystal fell down on his neck. That was my grandfather's, the first Hokage's. As Naruto felt regret at separating something like that from her, something that held sentimental values. He tried to remove it, give it back, but she held onto his hand. No, you earned it, she said. She leaned and moved his headband to the side as she kissed his forehead, surprising him. I didn't think you'd be able to do it, she said. Thank you for proving me wrong. They talked a bit longer, but ultimately, Tsunade made the preparations to get the money back to pay back the debt. She was happy by Naruto's success, but she sighed. No doubt she'll have to change her appearance once again. And she just got used to her 30-year-old form. Her teens might be fun again, she thought, as she rubbed her neck where the necklace was. A frown appeared on her face as she thought about the previous two owners. But she looked towards Naruto, who was happily chatting with Shizune, as she smiled. End of flashback. You learned the Rasengan in 3 weeks? Naruto nodded, as there was surprise in Jiraiya's tone. So, said Naruto. Jiraiya mumbled something under his breath about annoying blondes. He looked at his hand, as he remembered it took him 4 months. Then again, he didn't have to grab his wrist to make a perfect Rasengan. But Naruto Rasengan was almost the same size as Minato. It was quite large. As he pulled out the balloons from his pockets and threw them in the trash. But he was still smiling, as the boy was indeed Minato's son. He laughed. Next, Naruto was going to tell him that he mastered the Hiroshin, building a special kunai from scratch. He laughed again before pausing as he looked towards Naruto. Nah, he couldn't. Alright then, if there's nothing else, I guess we gotta hit the hay. He smirked. I only got 2 rooms, so I guess me and Uncle will have to share. Yeah, as if, you pervert. I'd rather bunk with the kids than you. Jiraiya walked off, mumbling the entire time. That left everyone looking at the 2 beds. As Gar walked forward and sit down on one, daring any of them to try and take it. The other 3 looked towards the one bed, as the 3 of them rushed off and started to push as they tried to get control of the mattress. Needless to say, it ended up with Naruto in the center, T.Y. to his left, Uncle to his right. He didn't know what Uncle was dreaming about, but he imagined it must be something with teddy bears, as she clutched onto him. He didn't wake her though, as she kept a kunai under her pillow, just in case, as her reflexes might get him killed. Time skip. As Naruto felt amazing as he woke up, the pillow was just firm enough to support his head and soft and fluffy at the same time. He snuggled into it some more, not paying attention to the murmurs coming above his head. As he took in a sniff, it was like dumpling or dongos, a sweet scent. He paused as he slowly turned his head to see Uncle's breasts. He didn't know what to do. If he moved, she might wake up. If he didn't move, she might wake up. He had to move. He had to get the hell out of here. Morning, kid. He froze even more. Her tone was sweet. Too sweet. Oh, don't fake ignorance with me, kid. I know that you're awake, Uncle said. As Naruto kept playing like he was sleeping, as he felt Uncle's breath near his ears. Did you enjoy your sleep? She whispered in that sweet tone. As he had to do something, he had to go all in as he twisted his head, snuggling up into them even more, to pretend like he was really asleep. He felt her pause. She mumbled something about him ruining her fun. She thought that he was actually asleep. She shifted from underneath him as his head dropped onto the mattress. For a moment there he missed the soft comfort of her. No, it wasn't worth losing a part of him. He stayed up there for another good 10 minutes before making his way down, as Uncle was in the kitchen eating breakfast. As he acted like nothing happened, they sat in silence eating. One out of embarrassment and one out of fear. Thankfully, T.Y. wake up, as the light had been peering through the window annoying her. What the hell is up with you two, she said. You guys look like you've seen a goddamn ghost. Anko looked at Naruto closely as she saw how nervous he was. You were awake, she said. Naruto's eyes shut open as he fell back off his chair. As he started to crawl away, Anko walked towards him, holding a kuna in her hand. No, wait, I didn't. There was no, I couldn't have, sorry. As Naruto did the best thing that he could and jumped through the window as it broke. As he ran away, Anko simply smirked. Sorry, you touched the twins. You have to pay. As she jumped through the window as well, chasing after him. An hour later, after Jiraiya prevented Anko from harming the young blonde, which he was grateful for, they were out scouring the city for Tsunade. They hit the largest and most obvious first. It didn't make sense for Tsunade to be there. After all, she had many of debts to pay up. But they had to just cross it off the list anyway. As Jiraiya thought that this was a waste of time, he shouldn't have listened to the blonde. But Naruto saw the blonde here. The group decided to split up as Naruto followed it as he made his way. There was a smaller place with rooms with poker. As Naruto made his way to here, it was very recognizable as he followed it. As he saw her, he made his way towards the table and sat down. As he saw that Shizune was nowhere around, he was surprised not to see her, seeing that she was always here. While it was definitely Tsunade, she was much younger than he remembered. If he didn't know that she was 50 years old, she looked like she was at least 19 or 20 right now. As he got dealt in, Tsunade hadn't noticed him so far, and he used that to his advantage. The game went slowly as the chips went back and forth, with player after player getting striking out. Naruto was marveling at the lucky streak that she was having, wondering if her name, the legendary Sakura, was just a ploy to make people underestimate her. The cards started to turn in his favor though, as a large stack started to pile up in front of him. The two others quickly left, leaving him and Tsunade alone as the hand was dealt. On the table it was a Queen of Hearts, the Jack of Spades, and the Jack of Clubs, 10 of Diamonds and Queen of Spades. Tsunade grinned as she pushed all of her chips inside as she went all in. As Naruto pushed all of his chips in as well. Honestly, he didn't really care about the money. He made a decent living from his missions. Tsunade put down her cards, showing her hand. 4 of a kind, jacks. As Naruto flipped over his cards, 4 of a kind, queens, he said. Tsunade slumped down as the man raked over everything Naruto. Naruto taking up chips to cover his buying as he pushed the rest of it over to Tsunade. She looked up confused as she felt the small chips graze her arm, looking up to see the stack in front of her. She looked at the blonde curiously. Something was Naruto? He smiled at her, walking over. Not before she raked off the chips in a small bag though. Is that really you? He nodded with a smirk as she slapped him. You little brat, I would have won if it wasn't for you. He glared angrily back at her. Hey, at least you got the money. She smiled at that as she patted the pouch. As she realized, now, I can buy into an even bigger game and double this. Shouldn't you pay back your debts first? What are you? Shizune now? She asked. Speaking of Shizune came rushing in, carrying a pig that Naruto didn't remember seeing last time. Lady Tsunade, there you are. Me and Tauntaun has been looking for you everywhere. As Naruto looked at the small, pink pig in her arms, the pig looked back at him like it had understanding, despite it was a pig. Not now, Shizune. Can't you see I'm talking to an old friend? Shizune noticed Naruto at that point as she turned towards him. Her lips instantly quirked up into a smile. Naruto, it's good to see you, she said with a smile. Learn any more legendary techniques, she asked. He rubbed the back of his head. Well, actually, Tsunade, as he was cut off. As Jiraiya looked over her, at her 19-year-old form, he took a full look up and down before raising a thumb. He approved. I like the new, or should I say, oh look. Bam! She sent him sailing through the wall. As Jiraiya groaned, his foot twitching. Jiraiya pulled himself out of the wall as he straightened up like he was never injured. What do you want, Jiraiya? Always straight to the point, huh? Come on, let me buy you a drink so we can talk. Time skip. As Naruto downed a saucer of sake. It had become clear to him a while ago that he couldn't get drunk no matter how much he tried. It was similar to most poisons. The Kyuubi would instantly remove the toxin from his system. As Naruto pondered the question that Jiraiya just asked Tsunade, he wondered what being Kazekage would be like. That new sense of power, responsibility. He wondered what that would be like. You can't be serious, Jiraiya, said Tsunade. Completely, Tsunade. Why me? Jiraiya looked confused for a moment. Obviously, he didn't thought that this question would come up. What are you talking about, Tsunade? You are the granddaughter of the first Hokage, grandniece of the second Hokage, and student of the third Hokage. There isn't anyone better suited for the job, he said. You of all people should know that connection and name mean nothing compared to true merit, Jiraiya. You yourself, you're more powerful than me. Why? Weren't you considered? Naruto looked at Jiraiya. How could he be more powerful than Tsunade? After all, he saw her strength. So how could Jiraiya be more powerful? I was. That news was quite shocking. But I turned them down. You were always the most level-headed of us. Always. Keeping us calm. Stopping me and Orochimaru from fighting. As she flinched at the name of her teammate. As Naruto felt like she was hiding something. Please, Jiraiya. The position of Hokage is for fools. Everyone that ate that job just ended up dying. Normally Naruto would have kept out of the conversation, but Tsunade just indirectly disrespected the old man. The first one that ever befriended him. We all die at some point, Tsunade. The table became quiet as everyone looked towards the young blonde. Every shinobi has to accept that at some point. His tone was flat, no joke, no sarcasm, nothing. At least the Hokage died for something they believe in. Sacrificed themselves for something bigger. I think the old man called it the will of fire once. The two Sanins, remember, that was always his favorite phrase. You don't know what you're talking about, brat. You never seen true pain, or feel a sting, or the loss of a loved one. The faces of her deceased lover and her brother flashed through her mind. Maybe not, but at least I've accepted that I will face pain in my life, whether I overcome it or not. But I will never give up. I will never stop fighting to make sure the ones I care about always stay protected and safe. An image of Nawaki came up on Naruto's features as she looked at him. Bravely said, brat, but you still have no idea what you're talking about. Naruto shrugged. He said what he needed said. How she took it was not his concern. All this time, Teiwaya and Gaara were staring at Naruto, hearing the convictions behind his words. Teiwaya especially seemed moved, and she could have sworn that he was looking at her when he said the ones I care about. You know, Tsunade, you may be right. Everyone turned to Jiraiya. Maybe you aren't right for the Hokage position. Maybe I was too hasty turning down the job myself. A lustful and recognizable grin spread across his face. Most of them groaned seeing that grin. Yes, I can see it now. Hot springs on every corner. Mixed baths all over the village. As Hokage, I would have command over every lovely kunoichi of the village. Yes, he said, standing up. I, Jiraiya, the legendary toad son of Mount Miyamoku, will take the position of Hokage and lead the ladies of Konoha into a new era. A fist smashed into his stomach, sending him away. As Tsunade blew off her fist. Like I would ever let a pervert like you become Hokage. Uncle was amazed as she wondered if she could ever get that strong. So, are you gonna accept the position? It was Gaara that asked. I don't know, she said. As she looked down. We'll give you some time to decide, Jiraiya said as he popped out of nowhere. She nearly punched him as he had to step back. Damn it, Jiraiya. You know I hate when you do that. He simply waved her off as he motioned for them to leave her, to give her some time to think. But before he left, he told her something. You know, Tsunade, if you turn down this offer, naturally, Danzo will be next in line. With that, he simply walked out of the bar, leaving Tsunade to think. Time skip, Jiraiya, are you sure? It was good to give Tsunade enough time to think about something like this. It was strange seeing Gaara concerned about something, but he was just voicing a question on everyone's mind. I know that woman for nearly 40 years of my life, and I still can't predict what she will do. I don't know, but there was something that she was hiding from me. I noticed that as well, said Naruto. It was when you mentioned Orochimaru. Jiraiya nodded as he had noticed it as well. Time skip. Both Naruto and Teiwaya were walking down the street of Tanzagagai, as Teiwaya was holding onto her two prize while Naruto was carrying the other two. As she had acted quite innocent, acting like a civilian girl that has never handled a kunai before in her life. As she took the man for a joyride and won all of the prize that she wanted, suddenly someone ran up to them. It was a girl. Purple hair, similar to uncle's, tied up in the same fashion. She was wearing a simple black t-shirt with an orange skirt. Hi. As she looked at Naruto, she said that, ignoring Teiwaya being there. Hi, said Naruto. She smiled as she stuck out her hand. I'm Kamai, she said. Naruto rubbed back of his head, but he offered his hand all the same. Naruto was Uzumaki. She placed her hand behind her as she squibbled her foot on the ground a bit. I notice you have a ton of prizes. Which means you're really strong, she said. As she was blushing as she said that. Actually, I'm the one that won them, said Teiwaya. The girl nodded as she turned back Naruto. Whoa, that is really nice of you for helping her carrying them. She came over and wrapped her arm around his, making him blush a bit. Naruto was surprised. He had never received treatment like this, and his mind was struggling on what he should do. By now, Teiwaya was fuming. Get the hell off of me, you whore, said Teiwaya. The girl turned as she looked towards Teiwaya in frustration. Fine. Hey, why don't you come find me when your girlfriend is not around? With that, she took off, with a sway in her step. That was weird. Why would she think that you're my girlfriend? One of the stuffed toys slammed right into his face. But it was still a toy, so it really didn't faze him. What? You think I wouldn't make a good girlfriend? She threw the others in his face and simply stomped off. What the hell just happened, said Naruto. Meanwhile, that girl rushed away in the alleyway. As she placed her hand together, as smoke enveloped her form, Anko stepped out of the smoke with a amused smirk on her face. As she was a master of infiltration, so they wouldn't see through her hints that easily. But her thoughts were confirmed now, seeing how jealous Teiwaya was. But Naruto was completely clueless. They have an unresolved relationship. Something like that could be quite tricky in the future. It was up to her, the team sensei, to sort that out for them. It wasn't really her problem if it worked out or not for them. What was better was, she made them understand what was going on. She knew something that would bring out Teiwaya's feelings even more. As a plan was formulated in her mind. Time skip. A few days later, the three kids were in the kitchen. The door was locked, so it was quite surprising when it suddenly burst open. As a panting Shizune came in, everyone turned quickly. San was already pouring out of Gaara's gourd and the others as Anko came rushing downstairs. As it was Shizune. As Naruto noticed she had a few scratches on her clothing. Shizune, what's wrong? What happened to you? Said Naruto. Orochimaru, you have to help Lady Tsunade. Quickly! But guys, be in subscribe right here. If you want to next part of the do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on bell notifications they posted. But I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace.